The other pitcher they were mentioning as a possibility is Jose Quintana, who really, in terms of, I was looking at his numbers, and I did a starting pitcher piece on him. Quintana's interesting because honestly, we gave him up for, he was given up really much for fodder. I mean, he was heading towards the Ivan Nova route of just being like this forgotten afterthought, but he put up a good year. And he was, again, St. Louis, the Cardinal Magic, but I mean, he had a really good start against the Phillies in the postseason. And it's one of those guys who, he's a lefty, so he's always getting a chance to get work. And all that big money. I mean, this is a guy who had a 6.43 ERA in 2021. So the more I think about it, if the Tigers did 2 years, 24 million with that as a guy at the back end of a rotation, I'd be fine with that. I mean, that's what MLB trade rumors had. And somebody mentioned here, Henry in the YouTube chat mentioned Johnny Cueto. So I'll start with you, Chris, on Cueto and Quintana.
Well, Cueto was vaguely interesting because he was there with the Giants for a long time until last year, right? Until he hopped on with the White Sox. And he had a really good year, and he's kind of a crafty veteran. He's not going to be a huge strikeout guy, but he seems to know how to pitch for sure, and that wouldn't be bad to have on the staff with a relatively young rotation. I mean, even Eduardo Rodriguez is only like 29, I think. And that's a guy I don't think you'd have to sign for more than 1 year, maybe 2 years. I think I would prefer him to Quintana just based on that, although Quintana could theoretically give you another year or two of quality pitching, but I kind of feel like he's pretty similar to Erod. And I like to have a little bit more diversity on the pitching staff.
What about you, Yooper?
Yeah, I would probably lean Cueto myself, specifically for what Chris said, 1 year versus 2. I bet you can get him for 1 year for a few $1 million. Quintana, never been his biggest fan. He had even back to his White Sox days. I mean, he had some good outings. Obviously, he had a couple good years, but I would try to go a different route than that. What was interesting was you guys have already mentioned two guys I had written down here for one of the questions later. Zach Eflin and Taijuan Walker. I actually like Taijuan Walker. I watched him pitch a couple times last year. That's, and he might be a little bit more expensive than some of these other names we're talking about, but I think that's a guy that would really be a good piece of the rotation. And the other thing I think is I would hope that health really is a big factor, because obviously, we just saw this past season, all the pitchers go down onto the disabled or the injury list. You like to go in a different direction, get some guys who are going to be reliable, take the ball.
Definitely. John, what about you?
Yeah, I'm on the mindset I don't want any long-term deals for starting pitchers. I would like a 1 or 2 year deal. Cueto, I like that, but I just don't know if this team were to struggle, how much could you really get for him if you decide to flip him at the trade deadline? I think a guy like Quintana could have a little bit more value. And to Yooper's point, I like Taijuan Walker a lot, but he's gonna probably demand at least 3 or 4 years. And so I'm more of like a 1 or 2 year deal type of guy. And I think Quintana and Cueto both fit that. So I wouldn't be particularly mad with either of them.
Yeah, both have really good chase rates. Quintana at 83% and Cueto at 75%, or 74%. So in terms of also trying to limit walks, I mean, this is a guy who last year Cueto came out and threw 158 innings, and he was signed. I don't remember. I think it was signed later in the year, I believe. And he was flat out like, "Hey, this team is pissing me off." He wasn't afraid to say anything about the White Sox clubhouse, or the cold atmosphere of the clubhouse for the White Sox. But this is a guy who also does a really good job of limiting walks, but his K rate has kind of decreased. He's not that same strikeout pitcher that he once was. So he is definitely a definition of a crafty right-hander. And same thing with Quintana. Quintana's not going to he's not going to overwhelm you with his fastball, but he's one of those guys that he has to have pinpoint location. When he does, he's pretty effective.